Hello, and welcome to Setting the Standard, the podcast about wireless radio standards creation from the Wireless Innovation Forum. Want to learn about any advanced radio technologies hot topic? You're in the right place. I'm your host and communications director of the forum, Stephanie Hamill. In this episode, we're getting an update on the 6 GHz ecosystem with forum president and chair Mark Gibson. Mark serves also as the chair of the 6 GHz Committee.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Stephanie. It's great to be here. Thank you.
We're going to talk about 6 GHz today, and we'll start with the beginning. Where are we now?
Well, we are now, lost track of how many years we are into this, but we are getting there. As you know, most know, I've sort of been keeping track of a timeline on certification. And, in recent conversations with the commission, the sense we're getting is that in fact, I've heard this mentioned publicly, they want to have AFC certified by the end of the summer. So we, as the WIN Forum, are pretty much are just about done with what they're waiting for us to be finished, which is basically the test vectors for testing the AFCs. So if I had to guess, I'd say that, my best guess, of course, I guessed this, months ago and was still wrong. But I'd say the best guess for us starting or maybe completing AFCs is sometime between, middle to the end of July to the end of September, that time frame. That should be about, when AFCs are fully tested, have gone through all of those steps that Commission outlined in the public notice and ready for commercial service.
Great. Okay. So that takes care of my second question of when will AFCs be ready for operation? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what has to happen then?
So right now, there's a couple of things sort of in play. The FCC recently issued a document that's called a KDB, and it stands for Knowledge Database. And the Knowledge Database is a database that's associated with their equipment authorization system. And that is used to answer questions that people have around how are things certified. And since the AFCs are certified as well, they put information in the latest announcement they made on, not so much on AFC certification, but on standard power device certification, because that's what we're waiting for. It doesn't make any sense to have AFCs if you don't have standard power devices. Mm-hmm. So that came out March 17th, I believe it was, or that around that time frame, with a request for comments in a 30-day cycle. So or 30-day period. So we industry, certainly we, our company, and we WIN Forum, are going to be providing comments on that within as soon as possible. In fact, I've got comments ready to go based on our internal meetings, within our steering committees and within the working groups. Mm-hmm. So what the commission then is waiting for is feedback on that. And then they will review the feedback, and then they'll issue an updated, probably final version of this document. And it'll really do two things that we in the AFC community are waiting for. One is it will then set a timeline for certification of standard power devices, which we're hoping is sooner than later. But it will clarify the interaction with the standard power devices and the AFCs from the standpoint of the devices themselves. And so there's a lot of information in that we'll be able to use as AFCs. So we're waiting on that. And my best guess on the time frame for that happening is within about the next about 2 months, worst case. That's very aggressive. So it could be later than that, but not too much later. The FCC is really eager to go. And the reason that they asked for comments on this, as opposed to just sending it out, is they've never done this before either. So they want to make sure that they don't, step in anything. So that's one thing that has to happen. It's just, that sort of sets everything up. Then, and this could happen any time now, we're waiting for the commission to issue a public notice that is sort of the next step in AFC certification, which lays out the next steps. Basically, it says, here's what the test labs have to do. Here's the process. In the first public notice they issued, which they issued back in November, it was November 2nd, they said they would be issuing another public notice to provide more guidance. They also set up a sort of a multi-step process. And anybody that remembers CBRS knows that there was this phase where we called it initial commercial deployment. They added another step, which they called public trial. And so we're waiting for them in this public notice to detail what has to happen there in terms of what has to happen and how long it'll take. And so there's all that. And then so then we get the public notice, and then presumably shortly thereafter, we can get the AFCs into testing and get that clock running. And so, again, I've estimated 14 weeks from the beginning of AFCs to be tested to the end of an AFC being certified. That's awfully aggressive compared to CBRS and even TV Whitespace for that matter. But we know a lot more than we did then. And we are trying to incorporate best lessons learned from all of those previous efforts. So we think we have it streamlined a bit. So that's why I say sometime in the summer. And like I said, the commission was at Ira Keltz, who's been speaking a lot on behalf of the commission, was at a Dynamic Spectrum Alliance conference earlier in the week, last week, and where I think he mentioned that the commission wants to have AFC certified by the end of the summer. So that's really the steps that have to happen to get us to that goal.
Great. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. That public trial, that's part of the AFC testing.
Yeah, the public trial, and a lot of people are confusing the public trial with this the ICD, and I'll explain the difference. For 6 gigahertz AFC, the commission inserted an extra step that they didn't for CBRS, and it's called a public trial. And essentially, it's a period. We're not sure how long. We figure it'll probably be 30 days, where AFCs allow the public to get into their systems and provide input information, and then look at the output and verify it's providing correct results. That's actually what the public notice says, is to verify that the AFCs are providing correct results. So, that's up to the public to determine what correct results are. There's some effort afoot to help with that, but it's really up to them. So that will happen once the AFCs have gone through a testing process, which actually that test process we're working on defining within the Wind Forum and collaborating with our sister member, and not sister, but our collaborative organization, the Wi-Fi Alliance. So we're both working on developing that. So that public trial, we figure, probably will run 15 to 30 days. The ICD phase, which actually in this situation I call integration testing, I don't know why they called it anything different, we feel, to the extent that it has to happen, can run concurrent with the public trial. Okay. And that phase is where we deploy a number of CBSDs out there in the wild, run them for a period of time, just like they would for real, but capture all of the information that occurs between, in that effort, put together a report, and then we submit that report on that public or on that integration testing ICD phase, along with the report on the public trial. And all those go together along with the test report to the commission, and then that's what they use to base their decision on certification of an AFC. Okay,
wow. All right. Yeah. That's a lot. Yeah. So then what happens after that approval?
Well, after the approval, we're off to the races. There should be, we're talking about now in the Wind Forum whether there'll need to be a secondary certification. Most of us feel that it doesn't need to happen. A lot of it depends on the extent to which we can get the major things captured right now. And we feel like we can. There may be one or two things that languish and we have to come back and deal with, but nobody really wants to have a secondary testing and certification phase. So we may be able to do this through a process that's established called permissive change, which essentially is an attestation that anything you do in the future will be compliant with the rules and the FCC's intent and all that stuff. So, let's say that we all get our public notices from the commission, AFCs, saying you are now certified for commercial use. Then the AFCs are ready to go. And apart from, little housekeeping after that, there should not be a whole lot left. But we saw for CBRS, we're now 2.5 years, actually more than 2.5 years into full commercial deployment, and we're still fully discussing things like coexistence and single frequency group and how DAS systems work. And so it's an ongoing thing. But like I said, by the time AFCs receive their final approval from the commission, it's off to the races, and they're all commercialized and can all have fun.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah.
We're almost there.
Yeah, almost there. Just don't hold your breath, but yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for providing that very comprehensive overview.
You are quite welcome. Thanks for your insightful questions.
And we're going to have a follow-up to this then again, probably in another few months.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Keep this going.
Yep. And another few months, we should be certainly into testing. So we'll have a lot more to know about where we are in terms of commercialization.
Great. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Again, yeah, sure. Me too.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Sure. Thank you.